Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and yes, at long sweet last, it is finally time for another Junior Eurovision review. It feels like it's been months since we've heard anything about the Junior contest, which isn't strictly true because we've had, 4 countries announce their singers already, but only one that's announced their song, and now finally, Russia has also chosen their song as well. So we finally know at least, we know one song that Klesta Chehaya is up against for Albania, so yeah, Russia chose their song. And if you saw my first Junior Eurovision review, then you'd know that I do these co-reviews with a guest, because they're co-reviews. But for Albania, she wasn't well. Well, she's well now. How many times can I say well? Guest, please introduce yourself, as if you lovely people watching couldn't already tell who I'm talking about.
Hello everyone, Europe here, finally able to join Tess for a Junior Eurovision review.
Yes, Lozzie, it's nice to have you here in person for a change. So, anyway, yes, as I said, Russia have chosen their song for Junior Eurovision. The singer is Sofia Fisenko, and the title is Zhivaya Voda, which means living water. So, that's a song. Now, what are my first impressions, personally? Well, I didn't make that many notes for this song, admittedly, and it is rather difficult to concentrate in the weather we've been having at the moment, so I'll try to keep this easy to understand. I've described it as pleasant and definitely not high energy, so while there is a chance they could do staging that portrays it as highly energetic, I feel like that wouldn't become the song, and so the national final staging suited it fairly well. Overall, and Europe Scalaway and I did agree on very, very many of our points, the first of which being, it's somewhat reminiscent of Belarus 2014, Nadezhda Misyakova's Sokal. So, while it isn't necessarily one for one, well, it's definitely not identical by any means, but it does call that song to mind both for Europe Scala 8, for me, and for some other people on Twitter, as we've seen. So, Laura, what about you?
Why, thank you for asking, Tess. Now, my first thoughts on this song. Well, 2016 seems to be the year where Russia bucks their usual trends. In the adult contest, they bucked their trend of sending apology songs and sent whatever the heck Sergei Lazarev sent, and in the junior contest they stopped dreaming and actually sent an actual song about living water. Yay. It starts out very kind of oriental. I couldn't really think of a better word to describe the sound at the beginning, but then it progresses into this beautiful ballad. Kind of reminds me of Sokol from Belarus in 2014.
So as you can hear, we feel more or less the same way about this song in more or less every conceivable facet, really. So let's dig a little bit deeper. Let's go into our more specific points that we like. So I'll start with my own, personally. First of all, I love how this song is so much more traditional than previous years. I really don't want to say that it's less plastic than Russia's previous entries, but it feels much more traditional. I don't want to say genuine, because that implies that the previous years weren't genuine, but this one feels more like it was written to be artistically expressive first, rather than to please a crowd first. And that you would have thought that on paper, at Junior Eurovision, pleasing a crowd is kind of more important than artistic expression, but I'd say there's a balance to be struck, because if it goes too far one way, it feels too synthetic. If it goes too far the other way, it's too weird. This, I feel, strikes a nice balance between the two. It's expressive, but not to the point of being alienating, but it's also not so expressive that it's not still marketable. And I don't want to put it in such cold, capitalist terms. Ooh, that was an unfortunate choice of words. You know what I mean. I don't want to put it in harsh, clinical terms, but that's more or less how I feel. And another point that Laura and I agree on is the song really does lend itself to some very interesting ideas for staging. There are so many different paths they could take with it, most of which would really make this song pop. So I'll be interested to see what they come up with. And besides that, Sofia has an ideal voice for this genre of song specifically. She has a great stage presence to go with it, as well as just a general sense of style that really fits with what she's going for. The song itself, it has its own little bubble. You can get into the world of this song and just occupy it for a while. It's got some kind of magic to it. It's a nice kind of ethereal. It's really difficult to describe, but it's got this own nebulous atmosphere to it, and overall, I think the entire package, Sofia sells it really well. She's got the right aesthetic, the right voice, the right everything to properly deliver the the world that this song generates for itself. Now let's see if Laura can say basically what I just said in her own words, because we agree on a lot of points about this one, but still. Laura, the floor is yours.
Now, what do I like about this song? Well, she's a strong and competent vocalist, which is a good thing, always a good thing in a performance such as this, adult Eurovision or junior Eurovision, because it's important that you're able to perform live, and yeah, she's quite able to do that. And the interesting musical components, that's another thing I quite like. The oriental sounding bits at the beginning and throughout the song, it's really rather beautiful, and it sort of immerses you into the world, kind of. This song provides so many interesting staging ideas. Like, I have ideas already about how they're going to stage this, but they could come up with something better and just blow everyone's minds. Now, there is, like, one major thing that I kind of really don't like about this, is how her voice cracks live in the verses. Like, this is the thing I've noticed when she's performing live. The studio version sounds fine. But those voice cracks in the verses, like, she can hit the high notes of the chorus very, very well. Those cracks in the verses are kind of distracting. And when performing live, and because it's 100% jury vote, they're going to take note on that and probably, like, deduct her markingly and probably not score this as highly as it deserves to. But that's my one major dislike with this song. What about you, Tess?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because I would like to go into a little bit more detail about the voice crack thing. That is something that we both picked up on, that in her live performance, and only in her live performance, her voice is a little bit shaky in some places, and that could just be explained away as, well, nerves on the night. I'm sure that's nothing that can't be rehearsed out of her system, so I'm not going to hold it against her. More specifically, what we're referring to is, in her live performance, there are occasional moments in the verses where her voice quivers a little, and it's not intended to be part of the song, it's just, I don't know. The only reason why it worries us is the refrain of the song relies on these long, impressive notes that, if her voice cracks during those, it could maybe ruin the mood of the song, but she can hit those notes perfectly fine in the live performance. It's just the occasional slip up in the verses, but I'm sure once she gets into the swing of performing it, it won't be an issue. But it's just something that worries us a little bit. The only other thought that I had on it is, you could say that the song doesn't really go anywhere. Like, once you've heard the first minute of the song, you've more or less heard the full 3 minutes of the song. But that depends on your tolerance. You might say it drags on a little, you might not. Because I said before that the song has its own little world, its own little bubble that you get drawn into. Well, if you are drawn into the song, then it's an amazing, ethereal 3-minute experience of magic and living water. If you're not drawn into the song, and that is a possibility, this might not work for some people, but that's okay, you can't please all the people all the time, so that's not Sophia's fault by any means. But if people aren't drawn into the song's world, whether that's through not liking the genre or not engaging staging or something, or if she maybe misses a note which kicks people out of the experience, then that sort of feels like there are still people inside the song's world enjoying it, but then everyone else is just sort of waiting outside, you know, by the gift shop, because all these places have a little gift shop. Her song's world has a gift shop, apparently, you heard it here first. The problem is, if you lose immersion in this song, that can be devastating because this is a very immersive song. So, if you're immersed, it's fine, everything's perfectly okay. If you're not immersed, it might start to become either repetitive or just not going anywhere, because that's an expression that makes sense. So, now for the ratings out of 10, I should probably move up a little bit so that it doesn't cover me up at the bottom of the screen. Ratings out of 10. Well, my own personal rating out of 10... I hesitantly give it a 7. I do really like the style, the aesthetic, everything. I really love what Sofia's got going for her. But as a song, I worry about it getting to where it's going too quickly. And so, if I'm only casually listening to it and not really getting fully invested, it does feel like it gets boring after a while just because it doesn't progress. As I said, the first minute is just... once you've heard the first minute, you've heard the entire song. But that's only if you don't get immersed. Laura, maybe you can word it better than I can.
Now, my mark out of 10 I personally give this an 8 because it's very immersive, it's very beautiful, and it provides so much to the imagination. It's just amazing and beautiful, and I just absolutely love this. It's one of my favourites. I say that because there's only 2 songs selected so far, but of the 2, I quite like this one so far, so good job, Russia!
So yeah, we should reiterate that we do like this song, we just have a couple of hang-ups about it. So my technical score out of 10, I'm going to give this an 8 hesitantly. I would give it a 9. I'm sort of on the 8-9 border here, because there's nothing objectively wrong with the instrumentation or how it's constructed as a piece of music or as a song. It does a lot right. It does the traditional kind of song justice. It does it rather well. The only problem is, because of how it's constructed, it doesn't leave itself much room to progress. So, as I've been saying, if you hear the first minute of the song, you might as well have heard the whole thing, and that's the only reason why I'm deducting points from the technical score here. So it's something that either a revamp could completely fix, and then they could add something to it that utterly blows me away, that's perfectly possible, or it could... I don't know, that they could add something to the studio version that makes it really, really gripping. And I should stress, the studio version of this song, as it is now, is more engaging than the live performance simply because of audio quality. So I think it will be fine come the actual night, but we still worry. So compared to, well, in this case, compared to last year, there's no question, this is definitely an improvement on last year's song, simply because I was never a fan of Russia's song last year. I just didn't get the hype. It was just a thing that happened and I wasn't drawn into it. This year, I'm willing to invest myself in it. It's just that if I listen to the song casually, it doesn't mean as much to me, but if I invest myself, then it's really engaging. And last year's song, it took a lot of effort for me to be engaged in. This year, I just have to not be doing something else when I'm listening to it, which... yeah, I could do that, also bucking the trend of sending dream songs, but I think Laura's already said that. Speaking of Laura, how do you feel compared to last year?
Compared to last year? Well, can you really compare it to last year? I really, really like this song. Last year's song, it took a while to grow on me, and if it takes that long for a song to grow on me, then the following year's probably going to be better if I like it substantially more. So... yeah, this year's song is better in comparison because this song I like instantaneously and it draws me in quicker. Last year's song, it literally took me until the live performance on the night for this song to actually grow on me. But then again, that could just be me really liking his live performance, despite how weird it looked. I can't really think of anything to say for a closing thought, to be honest. So, I've been Europe's Gallo 8, and good luck, Russia. Bye-bye-boo-boo. See you in Malta.
This is a difficult song to talk about because we agree on so many points, but we also struggle to articulate some of those points. But overall, having said everything, I'm happy with Russia's choice. I'd like to think that Europe's Gallo 8 is happy with their choice as well. And yeah, I would like to wish Russia very good luck come the actual song contest, because it's a step in a different direction for Russia, and I'm proud of them. Plus, it's really traditional and really cool. It's just a matter of, will she keep people's focus on the night? Well, here's hoping that they do, because this song really could go places. I look forward to seeing what they do with it, so see you then, Russia.